Hi again then guys, and welcome to another Special Projects custom build. And those of you who have been following this series for a little bit longer may know that occasionally I like to bring out what if builds. And basically what I mean by that is I like to take a car which maybe deserved to have a high performance version of it, but it never got one, or at least not as hot as we deserved. And when it comes to hatchbacks, they make perfect candidates. Now, Citroen is known for making hot hatches back in the day, or they were known. Nowadays, they're quite simply not. They do technically make some, but they're not hot. They're just normal hatchbacks that happen to have a bit more power. Now, the Saxo is probably the last legitimate Citroen hot hatch. So this basically is a vehicle which plays on a modern interpretation of a Citroen Saxo VTS or VTR with that very rally-esque underpinnings that the vehicle has, and also at the same time plays on the question of what could a Citroen C4 hot hatch have been like had they actually tried to do it properly. Something to take on vehicles like the Golf GTI, the Ford Focus RS, the Volvo C30, those kind of machines. That's the purpose of the tune. Now, as far as the visuals go, of course, it's a custom, so you can pretty much do whatever you want. I haven't actually changed anything about the bodywork at all, because the body kit just doesn't look right, and the wings are way too big. I have changed the rims. As you can see, I've gone for BBSs in inch up one size. Not too big, not too small. And then as far as the colour scheme, of course I've gone for blue. I've actually gone for a Citroen blue called Blue Grand Pavois, which again is my personal homage to the Saxo, which is quite often seen, at least here in the UK, in that colour. And as far as the rims, again, I went for that old school rally kind of look with the white rims, which are Scotia white from the older Mitsubishi Evo. So that's what I've done for the visuals, and that's it. So of course there's plenty of variation that you could change up for yourself, but now we'll go over to the mechanical side of things, as we always do, and then of course take it out on an actual racetrack to see if this car can actually pull off being a hot hatch. Now, as I always try to do, I like to keep these custom what could have been tune setups as realistic as possible. You don't want to go crazy with a tune like this. I mean, you can if you want to, but that kind of ruins the point of it. I want it to feel like it could have actually happened. Now, I've gone for sports hard tyres because that's a slight upgrade, but at the same time, it's not over the top. As far as suspension, again, I've increased each little thing by a small margin, just to make it feel that bit sportier over the standard setup. Now, I've gone for a ride height which is 20mm lower than stock, but at the same time it's not slammed, not by any means. As far as springs, again, I've tightened them up a little bit to 4 and 250. Likewise with the dampers and anti-roll, they're all on 1 to begin with, so we've put those up to 2, because again, you don't want it to feel like a touring car or a rally car, but you do want it to feel sharper and more focused and more track-able than the standard car. I've gone for neutral camber and toe, as I often would. You could give it some if you want to, of course, that's down to you. I've opted to leave the gearbox stock, just like with the brakes, because you don't really need to change it. I didn't want the gear whine of the straight cut gears, and there was no real need to change up the ratios. So you could do that if you want to, but there's no real need. As far as the diff, I've gone for the lowest initial torque, as you can see, the highest acceleration, and the lowest braking, but if you want to try something else, by all means do so. As you can see, I've gone for the twin plate clutch, and one of the reasons for that is because although you do have more power to deal with and more torque, there's not a huge amount, so it doesn't really justify having the triple plate. As far as power, of course it's totally down to you. Again, I wanted it to have the kind of power that I could imagine an actual hot version having, and at the time of its release, that would have been somewhere around the region of a Ford Focus ST. So that's what I went with. I've given it an oil change, as I usually would. We've gone for the low-range RPM turbo and the Sports Cat, which gives it 225 horsepower. Definite hot hatch territory, but not ridiculous. Certainly not something that would take on, say, a Golf R32, for instance. It's just not that kind of machine. As far as weight, I wanted to drop it a little bit. We've dropped it by, I think it's around 60 kilos or so, if memory serves, compared to stock. I've gone for stage 1 weight reduction, window weight and then added 70 kilos of ballast, which I've put all the way to the back. So that brings us to a reasonable weight and improves the weight distribution, and at the same time allows you to run the car at 425 pp. So, as I said, there are plenty of variables to go with. It is a custom, not a replica, so it doesn't matter if you change anything. Just give it your own spin, your own interpretation. But all that remains, of course, is to take it out on a track to see how it performs. Now, I would recommend going into this car, if you do decide to build it, with a certain mindset. Of course, don't expect it to be breaking lap records or necessarily even winning races. That's just not the point of this tune. The point is to have fun with the concept of how cool would it have been if we actually got a legitimate hot hatch version of the Citroen C4. Imagine the kind of visuals that the car could have had, the kind of body kit, the kind of wing and exhaust setup that they could have played around with, in a similar vein to stuff like the Hot Golfs, Meganes, Focuses, and that kind of stuff. It's a shame that they didn't, because it's a commonly held opinion that the Citroen C4 is a pretty well-styled vehicle, and as a WRC car, it certainly looks great. So it's really a shame that we didn't get a full-on hot hatch version. Overall though, if you do decide to use this car, I hope you have a lot of fun with it, and of course, put your own spin on it by all means. But if you'd like to check out more tunes like this, both replicas and customs, there are of course plenty more on the channel and in the playlist at the end of this video. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.